Now on today's video I'm going to talk to you about some plants that I bought yesterday. Me and Kathy went up to a place near Leeds called York Gate Garden, which is a fantastic 1 acre garden, and I visit it frequently. And I always look for a few plants that I can bring home, as you can expect. And today I thought I'd go through those plants that I bought. I didn't buy as many as I would normally because obviously I've got quite a lot of plants in this garden now. So I have to restrict how many I buy. I'm going to go through the plants that I bought yesterday. So there they are on the chair. We're in the cloister pergola at the minute, and I'll describe them in here because the sun's quite bright at the minute, so it's giving me a bit of shade, even though it's very early in the morning. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plants to show you. I actually bought 8, but I've doubled up some of the numbers, so I'll not bother showing you them. Now, when you're choosing plants, it's really a personal preference. To many people, plants can be boring. This kind of plant can be boring. But you've got to shake it up a bit. You can't just have all the bog standard plants. You've got to look for weird and wonderful and wacky. And that's exactly what I've done here. So we'll go through each plant in turn. I'll start with this one, and this is a hosta called T Rex. And it's described, and on its label, I'm going to read the label to you, as a large, impressive hosta with blue cast leaves, white flowers, and it improves year on year. So basically it gets better the longer it's in. It gets bigger and bigger, as most hostas do. When you first buy an hosta, you can only expect it to sit for the first couple of years, and then after that it will start getting bigger. Now this one is definitely a big hosta. Now this is one that's, as they describe it, as seen in Sybil's garden, and it obviously prefers damp soil. It will take part sun, and it'll probably prefer full shade. Now at the minute it's only in a 2 litre pot at the moment, but this plant, although green and looks boring at the moment, it will become an absolute monster. If you look this one up on the internet, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now the other one that I've got that becomes a monster the same as this one, and because we're near it I'll show you it, is this one here. This one's called Hosta Empress Wu, and already that's quite an impressive size. Although I'm expecting it to get taller and taller as the years go on. It should make up to 5 foot. It's only small at the minute, maybe 1.5 foot, 2 foot actually, but with quite a spread on it. So T Rex, Hosta T Rex, I don't think I've ever had this one. I've always looked for it but never been able to find it. It's one of the hostas up at York Gate Garden that they have lots of in their garden there, this particular one. So quite impressive, and a good size. So the best place to put hostas really is in a shaded area, or part shaded area. The sun's hitting this at the moment, this particular one, but it does get shade for most of the day. And the tripartum hosta, which is that one in there, the little spindly one here, is looking really nice as well. So I've got them in the shady area for most of the day. I do have hostas in sun as well, but try and select an area where it's going to be mainly shade and definitely damper. It's definitely better to have it in a damper area. Now although they are a little bit boring, they do have this ribbing on them which is quite nice. Would we call that a ribbing? I don't know. But what they are really is the leaf veins. So they look good. Nice hosta to have. Now this particular plant I've been after for some time, and I noticed that they had it in the garden. So when I got to the nursery section where they make the plant sales, I looked for it in vain, and there was just this one plant. So very small at the moment, but I had to have it. And the unusual thing about this one is that shape, that spade shape, or an arrow really, an arrowhead shape. Now this is called Persicaria runcinata, and a variety called Purple Fantasy. So again, we'll read off of their label, and it's grown for its attractive leaf form in Sybil's garden again. Silvery arrow-shaped leaf with purple chevron, and it produces small white flowers midsummer, and it's a plant that's recommended for part shade. Now it is a spreader. It was up there. It was spreading, not a lot, but it was spreading, and they've obviously got gardeners up there that tend the garden, and they look after this and make sure it doesn't get where it shouldn't go. But sometimes that's not always an easy task. But it is a beauty. I absolutely love it. Now I've got several Persicarias. This will be one of the smaller ones that I've got. In fact, while we're here, let's show you this. There's Persicaria polymorpha through the window there, the white flowered one, which is huge. So that's on the other end of the scale. As I've said, part shade suits it. A little bit of dryness will not kill it. But I think it would prefer a quite moisture retentive soil. But if you do put it into that sort of soil, you can expect it to run quite a bit. But it's lovely, absolutely lovely, and it will impress your friends, especially when it gets into a bigger clump. So in the future, I'll probably be posting that one. Now I'm not going to put that in the garden straight away. I'm going to leave it in this little square pot, which is a 9cm square pot, and I will simply grow it on, and I will move it probably up to a 2-litre pot before finally next year I will put it in the garden and choose its place carefully as well. I don't want it to be running all over. In fact, this is probably the ideal location for it in here, where I can keep my eye on it and allow it to spread through the other plants. It won't hurt at all in this section. But we'll give that some thought. So there you go. So that's Persicaria runcinata Purple Fantasy, a cracking plant that I'm going to really look forward to. And don't be afraid of getting little spreading plants. It's all about your control in the garden. Don't blame the plant for spreading, blame yourself. You need to look after it. This plant is often confused with a wild strawberry because its leaf looks exactly like strawberry plants. And as I said, it's often confused with that particular plant. You wouldn't want to eat the fruit off this one. Not do you any good at all. So this one is Potentilla, and one called Miss Willmott. And we'll describe it again. Dark-eyed pink flowers over a very long period with delicate strawberry-like foliage, as I said, and it prefers sun or part shade. It can take full sun. I've got it to go in my gravel garden, where it will prefer to be, in my opinion, but you must give it some good soil. Now my gravel garden is actually got a top layer of gravel, obviously, and then an underlayer of hardcore. So I need to either find a little section where it can go in nicely, or I'll have to dig some out, move some of the stone. Now I've been after this for a while because I need to put little, it's not really spread, or slightly spreading, clump forming little plant. And it's not always easy to get hold of this one, but I managed to find it up at York Gate. They've got some good plants, and I actually bought 3 of these. One I'm going to keep for propagation, and the other 2 will go up in the gravel area. So what else can I say about this? Nothing really. It's just a pretty little plant that won't really cause you any, well, it won't cause you any problem at all. It'll just sit there in its clump, slightly spreading out, and then at the end of the year it'll just die back, and then the following year it'll carry on. But it's the pink flowers that are really nice, and those pink flowers actually have quite a dark eye in the middle, which sets the flower off perfectly. So very nice one to have. I've not always been successful with this type of plant, but I have finally managed to get a particular one going further up the garden in this half shady border, and it's doing okay now. I'm having to keep my eye on it because it does like a bit of moisture, and it can dry out in that area, so from time to time I go and give it a couple of gallons of water. But this one is, it used to be called Simicifuga, and that's what they're still calling it on their label, Simicifuga simplex, and this particular variety is hillside Black Beauty. Now the proper name now is Actaea, so it's Actaea simplex hillside Black Beauty. Described as the best dark-leaved Actaea, we think, Beautiful white flower spikes, summer to autumn. Full sun or part shade. But I don't know where I'm going to put this particular one. I have got one or two areas that I'll probably choose for it. But again, I've got to remember, I've tried it before in certain areas and it's not done so well. But I just love it. I just love this ferny foliage. It's beautiful. So if you've got an area where this one can grow for you, then get it. It's a clumper, slightly spreading again, but clumping really, just getting bigger in its clump. But the flower that it sends up, and it doesn't mention it on this one, but I know that these plants have the most lovely tall flower that has a lovely scent, almost a bubble gum on some of them. If we remember the old bubble gum smell, that's what the smell like. It's beautiful. But you need to keep your eye on it. Make sure that you don't let it dry out, because it will die away very, very quickly. So that's an Actaea, and a very good one. The other one I've got is one called James Compton, which is also another good one. So this one, most people, I assume, will find a little bit boring, but it is a wonderful plant for semi-shade, and semi-shade with a bit of moisture. I've had this one in a previous garden, and actually I went to visit that garden a couple of weeks ago and it is doing fantastic, and I put it into its ideal location, which was part sun, part shade, which basically means some of the day it gets shade and some of the day it gets sun. Now, it has a lovely waxy bell-shaped flower that hangs down, a yellow one. So we'll describe it as the label describes it. Highly sought after, unusual perennial, late flowering, soft yellow bell-shaped flowers and interesting foliage, as you can see. And it enjoys moist ground and partial shade, as I said. And this will spread around for you. It won't go mad, but it will spread around. Now, the one up at Caister that I was looking at the other day must be about 4 or 5 foot, but that's been up there for about 10 or 15 years. In fact, probably longer than that ago when I planted it. But it is a very nice one, and I do like this because it's more unusual than what you're used to getting. Now, I know this one's described as being a bit of a sought after plant up at Yorkgate. In fact, I think on the main label they said it's one of their staple plants. I think it was this one. But it is beautiful. Now, to you, plain, ordinary, but beautiful. And again, maybe this is the one that should come into this border, because it would suit it down to the ground. It would be absolutely perfect in the back there. Now, I'm not afraid to take out some of those plants in there and replace them with this one, because this would be a better choice. So we shall see. But that's where I'm favouring that one at the moment. So worth looking for, worth getting hold of, is definitely highly recommended by me as being more unusual. The likelihood is your neighbours won't have it, because it's not available in garden centres, or it wasn't, and I don't think it still is. But places like Yorkgate Garden, they specialise in growing the unusual, and in this case that's what they've got. So a bit of a stunner. I wasn't going to include this grass because in my opinion it's quite common now, and you can find this one in garden centres. This one's called Hackonechloa macra aureola, which I talk about quite a lot, and I will go and show you my own plants that I've got in the garden at the moment of this variety. The reason I bought this particular one is for my stock, because I'm trying to split it and grow it on. I don't want to take them out of the garden. Now, to be quite honest with you, the best thing I can do with this one is actually plant it into the garden and let it form its clump. Can take 2 or 3 years, and then split from the clump out of the garden. That's how you get the best plant. So let's describe it. One of the best variegated plants, makes a lovely arching mound, a real statement plant to light up a dull area. So it's for full sun or partial shade in a well-drained area. To be quite honest with you, it does well all over the place. It's called Japanese forest grass. So from that you can assume it actually sits in forests or in forest clearings and at the edges of forest, and it does make a wonderful clumping plant. People like this one because of its golden variegated look. And as it gets bigger, that just gets better. And I'll show you a plant that I've had in for the last 2.5, 3 years at Grassy Bottom, and we'll pop across to that in a minute and show you that one, so you can get a reference as to where it's headed. Because we've just mentioned the Hackonechloa aureola, which is the variegated form, this is just macra. And these 4 plants around the silver birch, and eventually they will all be big clump, well, I say big, about 2, maybe 3 foot clumping plants. And in the end, they're gonna look beautiful in there. Now, planted en masse, this particular grass does look pretty good. If you've got an area where you can stick 20, 30 of these things, they're just amazing. And when the wind catches them, which it's trying to do at the moment in here, then it has an altogether different look. But you need to wait a little bit longer till they get to about 2 foot, and then they do look really, really nice. So what we'll do now is we'll pop around to 1 or 2 of the areas where I think those other plants may look good. But I've already said what's going to look good in here. The Kirengeshoma and the Persicaria will look good in this area. So a semi-shade, very nice, they'll do there. Don't be afraid to push them in between other plants. There is the room, especially for the Persicaria. That would go nicely in there. Spread around a little bit, do its thing. Control it, don't worry about it spreading. Just control it and keep it where it looks good. If it goes into an area where you're not happy, just simply rip it out and pot some of it up, because it's good for potting up anyway, if you can get a big enough chunk. Okay, so we'll walk around to the Hackonechloa macra aureola to show you just how it looks. And as I said, it's been in here possibly 2.5, 3 years, and it's the one in the background. We'll get a closer look in a minute. Now, it's not nowhere near the size I want it to be, but it's starting to get there. And it just has this beautiful look. So Hackonechloa's beautiful. There's another one over here, not golden variegated. This one's called Samurai. Another nice one to have. This one is Hackonechloa macra, just the ordinary plain one. And this sits below one of my aces. And he's looking pretty good. He's quite happy here. I have been tempted to move it 2 or 3 times, but because it is growing so well, it's been left to do its own thing. So it's getting bigger year on year. And then because we're so close to the Japanese garden, it's an ideal plant for Japanese gardens. And there you go, you can see it in the background there. Now this one is leaning a little bit because it's looking for the light, but a beautiful grass. And it doesn't cause any problems. It's a clumper, slightly spreading again over time, but basically makes a clump. Beautiful, in my opinion. So I talked about an Actaea hillside black beauty earlier. This one's, let's see if we can still find the label, but I know it's James Compton. So this one is listed as its proper name. Let's show you it while we're here. So this is the one I've got here, Actaea simplex James Compton. Darker even than brunette. Brunette's another type. Clump former, strong stems bearing large feathery dissected deep purple foliage with long white bottle brush flowers in autumn, partial shade, rich fertile soil, which is what I was trying to say really. Now, they're not mentioning, they never mention the scent that you get from this plant, but it is a lovely scent. And the actual flower itself will shoot up to about 3.5, 4 foot easily, if not 5. And the scent is quite intoxicating, to be honest. You can spot it as you approach it if the wind's blowing in the right direction. But a beautiful one. Definitely worth getting for a moist, shady area. It will take sun, but prefers moist and shady areas. So this is the Potentilla I talked about, and ideally suited for this sort of an area, gravelly area. Will look really nice. So I've got to make my decisions as to where I want to put it, and as I said, I will have to remove some gravel to get it in there. So ideally I'll probably put it in here. It'll probably look really, really nice in this section here. and hopefully it'll take off. But I will have to remove some of the hardcore that's underneath there, because I know it extends to there. May even remove that little rock to the left, may keep it, don't know. Running out of space here really, so probably losing that rock will probably be the key to the success of this plant. But we shall decide later. So, there you go. A few plants that I bought up at Yorkgate Garden. A garden definitely worth visiting. If you've never visited it, you should. I'm always up there. I say I'm always up there. I've visited twice already this year. It's a place I like to go for inspiration. Even though I've seen it time and time and time again, it still gives me inspiration. And it's worth visiting. And if you're up that way, near Leeds, then do visit it. There's even a cafe there now, a bigger cafe, and it's absolutely stunning. So, there you go. A few plants that I bought on my journey. And I'm sure I will be adding to my garden with even more plants as the years roll by. Hopefully that's helped you out and taken away the mysteries of some of the plants, because it's all about learning the plant itself and knowing its conditions. There's nothing magical about it. The only magic is when you plant it and you see it grow, and then it does look magical. So before I go, if I can ask you to give my page a bit of a like and share it with your friends, I'd appreciate that, because numbers do drop from time to time simply because I'm either getting very boring or it's just not being shared around enough. And it does help and it does make a difference. I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!